Hello, hello. Hi, hi, hi. Seize the day, everybody. We're open tonight for fun, and so glad to see you here. This is Talk More Talk, solo Beatles video cast. We talk about the solo careers of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, occasionally discussing Beatles items too, when something is interesting or maybe something comes up that's new that we want to discuss. I'm Joe Mayo. You may know me from my channel on YouTube called Mean Mr. Mayo. And we're going to be doing a pretty fun show today. I think the topic is really good. We'll get to that topic a little bit after. Before I do, let me introduce my co-host. First, the queen of all Beatles media and all else, everything that moves, everything that lives, everything that grows. So everything, the queen is here. And you may know her from her books that she's written. One of them is Songs We Were Singing, Guided Tours Through the Beatles' Lesser Known Tracks, and also Michael Jackson FAQ. I don't know if it's everything you wanted to know, everything left to know about the King of Pop, but either way, if you like Michael Jackson, there's a book for you. And she did talk about the cover of Ben with the rat on it that I actually have, the album cover, and I like that album cover. Movie, not so much, but Willard was better. But anyway, welcome, Kid O'Toole.
I agree.
Thank you, Joe. That was quite an introduction. Queen of everything. I like that a lot.
Everything. The Queen of Cups. The Queen of Batteries.
Queen of the backgrounds.
Doesn't matter what
Queen of the backgrounds. That's right. Queen of everything. I love it. Hi, Joe. Hi, Tom. Hi, Ken. Hi, everyone who's watching.
Hey,
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to
Okay,
everybody.
Happy New Year. That's right. This is our first show of the new year, by the way, which I should have thought of. But next up, I don't have a fancy one ready for you, sir, but he co-hosts a McCartney-centric video cast called Two Legs with his partner, Andy Nichols, which I'm really enjoying. Let's give it up for Tom Hunyadi.
Hello,
Hey,
Joe.
Tom.
Hello. Hey, Ken. Hey, Kit. Joe, it's good to see you guys. It's a brand new year, and I think we're going to have a good year ahead of us.
I sure hope so. We got a lot of Beatle-related stuff and solo Beatle-related stuff coming. So
Another yes, it's going to be another hurting on the wallet this year, I believe.
That's right. Come on, everybody, click those videos. Let's go. All right. Last but not least, as we like to say, he spent nearly 40 years. I don't want to age him beyond his years. Nearly 40 years in the radio biz, and his Beatles show is called Every Little Thing, and he co-hosts a really cool audio podcast, Things We Said Today. He has his own YouTube channel now, Ken Michaels Radio.
That's right. Yep.
And interviewing a lot of people on there. So anybody, give it up for Ken Michaels. Hey, Ken.
Thank you, Joe. Hi, everybody. Hi to all of our viewers, and Happy New Year.
You said it. Okay, tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about a mixtape. What if we had the three McCartney solo albums, as they say? McCartney, which I'm starting to call McCartney 1, just to differentiate from the other one. McCartney 1, McCartney 2, and McCartney 3. And we would take maybe 4 tracks from each one of those albums and see what we can come up with, like a hybrid kind of thing. Whether it's the best of, whether it's, as in my case, not necessarily the best of, but what I think works. Really hard to do. I tried doing it, and I had a few rough drafts, and I kept changing them around, and trying to sequence an album with that highlights the best stuff, that maybe even stuff that just somehow fits together somehow, some way, even though it might not be necessarily the best. Somehow the songs go together and complement each other. All right, but of course, before we do any of that, we're going to get to the latest news from Ken Michaels. So pull up a chair, grab a beer, and relax. Listen in.
I'll drink to that.
Drink to me.
Drink to your news.
Drink to my news.
All right, we're going to start with some rather upsetting news. In case you have not heard, Olivia Harrison revealed that she has been hospitalized with COVID-19, but she says she's on the mend. Yesterday, she posted on Instagram, displaying a sense of humor, that she was redesigning the hospital room curtain, and her post showed a curtain tied in a bow. That was the extent of the redesigning that she did. She added the words, "gratitude to all the selfless carers." She is right now at an undisclosed hospital in London. Olivia is 72 years old. Let's all keep her in our prayers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wish her a speedy recovery.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, something interesting leaked out a few days ago online called George Harrison Cassette Sessions. It's a tape of George on acoustic guitar with excerpts of songs with banter in between, and it certainly appears to be around the time of All Things Must Pass, with songs that appeared on George's album. Are there unreleased songs from that time from George, like Everybody Nobody, Window Window, Mother Divine, even Paul's Come and Get It, which tells you that the recordings are either from late 1969 or sometime in 1970. It is rumored to be something we might get on the forthcoming All Things Must Pass archival box set. And I just learned, according to Beatle Fan, that it was ordered to be taken off the internet
Mm.
from the RIAA.
So
So
that
if any of you had a chance to listen, you got possibly a sneak preview if it does appear on this box set.
Maybe that's a good sign that we're going to get it.
Well, I
Well,
think it was a good sign that it was taken down. If it's taken down, I think that's a good sign that it's probably going to be
Yeah,
on the
what I mean.
set.
Right.
I'd have to imagine all the stuff on Beware of Abco, the bootleg, has got to be on the box set.
Oh yeah.
So it's, the songs I just mentioned, the unreleased George Harrison songs from that period, you've got him on acoustic guitar working on these, and they're also on Beware of Abco. So who knows? Very interesting. I listened to it the last couple of days, and I certainly hope that it does appear on the box set. Thanks to our friend Fred Velez, who just authored his second book on the Monkees, A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You Too. He said he caught the Beatles teaser video for the new Get Back film on the Disney Plus channel, which leads you to believe the film will be shown on the channel. The date we've heard for its release still is August 27th this year, which we certainly hope will be in movie theaters. Everything is all dependent on COVID-19.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I could see it being in the movie theaters first and then on the Disney Plus channel.
Well, that'd be
And
the hope.
then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I certainly hope so. The footage said at the end of it, for what that's worth, in cinemas, I mean, it remains to be seen, but the fact that it said in cinemas at the end of it, I think it said this summer. Is that what it said? The general thing in cinemas this summer. But that would mean that at least they're intending maybe to do that. Whether it pans out and works out is another story.
I definitely want to see that in the theater.
Oh,
you got to see
yes.
that on a big screen.
Oh,
yes.
But I could actually see them, just counting their losses if the pandemic is still bad, and then just putting it on Disney Plus and releasing it on home video.
Yeah.
You can only wait so long.
Exactly.
Really.
You can't keep delaying it. I mean, they delayed the new Bond movie again. I mean, that thing's been delayed for a year now. So.
Yeah. Yep.
You've already got it recorded, in film, so you got to go out. All right. As for the initial success of Paul's latest album, McCartney III. Remember, we haven't done a show now in 3 weeks, so some of this may seem like old news, but just to catch up on everything, the album debuted in the United States on the Billboard Top 200 album charts at number 2, behind Taylor Swift's new album, Evermore. Paul's album has sold 105,000 album equivalent units, with 102,000 in actual album sales, making it the best-selling album of the week, and it debuted at number 1 on the top album sales chart.
Now, Ken, is that albums and CDs? I'm sorry.
The album sales chart, I'm not sure if that's both.
Okay.
And half of those sales are courtesy of Tom and myself.
Yes. and Darren and Alan from Today.
Yes. I forgot.
But it sold 32,000 vinyl copies.
Okay.
53,000 copies on CD.
There you go.
Those are some of mine.
18,000 as digital downloads, plus 1,000 copies on cassette.
Wow, that's great.
The main reason why it didn't hit number 1 was because of streaming. Taylor Swift did so much better with streaming.
Right.
McCartney III was also the #1 album on the vinyl albums chart. Okay, so yeah, on vinyl alone, it ranked #1.
Okay.
McCartney is also the first artist to have reached the top 2 album charts in the last 6 decades, from the 70s to the 20s.
Mm.
In its second week, McCartney III dropped all the way down to number 37.
Which
Okay?
isn't that bad. I don't usually look at the glasses half full, but I would think it would have taken a bigger tumble, but it's still in the top 40.
Yeah, but we'll talk about this later. I just wish his newer albums had longevity
Yeah.
on the charts, but we'll discuss why they don't.
Yeah.
And not
in most
only,
cases.
and plus it was a trifecta. So McCartney debuted at #1 here in the States. I think 2 was #3 in the States, and then now 3 is #2 in the debuted at 2.
Well, no, the
It's
first McCartney album made it to #1. It
one,
didn't
right?
debut at #1.
I'm sorry, it made it
Yeah.
to 1. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, but all 3 of them were all 3 top 3s as well. So
That's true.
great. That's a great accomplishment. Either
Yep.
way.
In addition, McCartney III debuted at #1 in the UK on their official albums charts, and it was the first time Paul has had a #1 album in the UK since Flowers in the Dirt in
Oh.
1989. In
Wow.
its second week, the album already dropped to number 19. Checking as I did today, the album is now at number 38. This is in the UK. Worldwide, McCartney III has made the top 10 in most countries, already topping the charts in Germany and on the Dutch charts. Paul and his wife Nancy have been taking time off vacationing in St. Bart, with pictures surfacing of them enjoying the sun and swimming at the beach there. Now, as of this moment, and I just checked before we started our show, you can catch Paul's concert at the Cavern Club from July 26, 2018, when he was promoting his album Egypt Station. It was recently broadcast on BBC TV, and it was professionally shot. It's rumored to be released on DVD. And I don't know if the 3 of you saw this yet, but I think for the most part, he was in fine voice for
No,
this
I
show.
haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet.
The only problems I've had with this concert is that when I try to play it, the audio is kind of low. You really got to boost the volume up. And also, I kind of feel like the balance, there are times when Paul's vocals are at the same level as the other band members, and I'd like to hear Paul pushed up a bit more so you can hear him more in the mix. But otherwise, it's a really enjoyable show. So look out for it on YouTube, Paul at the Cavern Club. In an interview that Paul gave to NPR, he revealed that he talks to George Harrison through a fir tree that George gave Paul shortly before his death in 2001. Paul planted this tree at his estate in East Sussex, and he has watched it grow in the nearly 20 years since George's death. Paul said on the program, All Things Considered, George is very into horticulture, a really good gardener, so he gave me a tree as a present. It's a big fir tree, and it's by my gate. As I was leaving my house this morning, I get out of the car, close the gate, look up at the tree, and say, "Hi, George." There he is, growing strongly. Paul said he feels George's spirit is present in that tree.
And I have to say, there were some headlines that I saw about this article that made him sound like, oh, he's getting old and senile. Give me a break. I thought that was a beautiful story. I mean, you know, when you read the whole thing, I mean, I thought that was a beautiful, touching story. And, you know, shame on the tabloids. I mean, you know, and mostly the British tabloids. Sorry, anyone who's watching, you know, and or listening who's from Britain, but come on. I mean, I just thought that was so offensive. It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
He is not going senile. Period.
You know, it's just possible that he's a spiritual person, and many of us get more spiritual as we get older. So maybe he believes it. I mean, gardening was a very big part of George's life.
Absolutely.
Other news, Paul's brother Michael and his former group, The Scaffold, have reunited to release a new version of their big hit, Thank You Very Much, as a charity single to benefit the NHS. That is the National Health Service in England. And the words were changed to reflect our appreciation of the frontline workers and nurses all tirelessly working while facing this horrible pandemic. You can find their new video under the title, "Thank You Very Much for the NHS," and U is the letter U. On the YouTube page, there is a link to download the single and to make a charitable contribution. Very nice gesture. Goes very well with that song. Thank you very much. To kick in the new year at 12 midnight, singer Andra Day sang John's song Imagine, as heard on CNN. Andra plays Billie Holiday in a new movie, The United States versus Billie Holiday. The late Chris Cornell covers John Lennon's song Watching the Wheels in an upcoming posthumous album for him called No One Sings Like You Anymore. The album has Chris covering songs from Prince, ELO, Terry Reid, Guns N' Roses, and more. A new lyric video has just been made for Cornell's version of Watching the Wheels. You can stream that album now, and physical copies will be available in March. Speaking of John Lennon covers, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, for David Bowie's would-be 74th birthday on January the 8th, a single was released of David covering John's song Mother, with the flip side, David's cover of Bob Dylan's song Trying to Get to Heaven. This is a limited edition 7-inch single. Only 8,147 copies have been made. I wonder why that number, if anybody knows.
Very specific.
The first 1,000 are cream colored. It is supposed to be available for streaming and as a digital download. Bowie recorded Mother for a John Lennon tribute album planned for 1998 that never finalized, and Tony Visconti produced the record. Also, we're going to close with the very sad news on the passing of Jerry Marsden, which happened on January the 3rd. Jerry, of course, was the lead singer of Jerry and the Pacemakers. The group scored many big hits in the 60s, the biggest in the US being Ferry Across the Mersey, and also Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying. The group's version of the classic show song You'll Never Walk Alone from the musical Carousel was not only a #1 song in the UK, but became the anthem for the Liverpool Football Club. He had many connections to the Beatles, having been the next act that Brian Epstein signed following the Fab Four, and George Martin produced their early records. When George Martin wanted the Beatles to record How Do You Do It as their first single, they reluctantly recorded it, but they wanted their original material on the singles instead. George Martin gave in to their request and then offered that song to Jerry and the Pacemakers to record, which became their first #1 hit, their first hit, period. In fact, the first 3 singles that Jerry and the Pacemakers released in the UK all went to #1, something the Beatles didn't even do. The Beatles were friends with Jerry and the band, and there was even one day, October 19th, 1961, when both bands were joined on stage at Little Inn Town Hall in Liverpool, when they appeared as the Beatmakers. And there are photos you can find of both bands together, even one where they're both posing with Roy Orbison. And in 1989, yeah, great photo. Jerry redid the song Ferry Across the Mersey in 1989 as a charity single to benefit the victims of the Hillsborough disaster, which happened at a football stadium in which 96 people were crushed to death. And Paul McCartney helped out, singing quite a bit in that version, which raised a lot of money for the cause and was a #1 record in the UK. Paul issued a statement on Jerry's passing. He said, "Jerry was a mate from our early days in Liverpool. He and his group were our biggest rivals on the local scene. His unforgettable performances of You'll Never Walk Alone and Ferry Across the Mersey remain in many people's hearts as reminders of a joyful time in British music. My sympathies go to his wife, Pauline, and family. See you, Jerry. I'll always remember you with a smile." Jerry Marsden died after a short illness following a heart infection. And Ringo Starr sent out his statement, "God bless Jerry Marsden, peace and love to all his family."
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I really enjoy his bit when in the Complete Beatles when he's talking about was it Skiffle, and he's playing a little bit about it. I mean, that was my first introduction to Jerry, as a matter of fact.
It was all sort of achi-dachi.
Yeah.
I always remember. I always think of that when I think of Jerry Morrison for whatever reason.
Yep, I remember seeing him and meeting him in 2000 at the 2007 Chicago Fest, and
Wow.
he first performed kind of an unplugged, I guess I'd call it, session there, just him and the guitar, and he talked about writing some of the songs, and hearing him just sit there and just play guitar and sing Ferry Cross the Mersey, Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying. That's probably one of my top 5 favorite moments ever from the fest. It was so touching, and somebody took some video of it. You can find it on YouTube if you search for it.
Oh, cool.
And he was an incredible voice, and I got to meet him. He took a pic, and I'm trying to find it. I'm going to hopefully I'll find it. Maybe I'll post it on our Talk More Talk.
Queen of all meetings.
Yeah, queen of all meetings. Exactly. Couldn't have been couldn't have been nicer. He was just a real gentleman, and I'm just so lucky I got to meet him, and I just feel so fortunate I got to see him perform in that kind of setting, and as I said, it was like an unplugged concert. And what a singer, what a songwriter, and and it's also another piece of Beatles history.
And I got to see Jerry too at a Beatle Fest, but I don't remember the year. It was much earlier than that, though. He must have been there in the 90s, maybe.
It could be 1990.
Yeah, I was there. It was pretty early. And it was in New Jersey.
Right.
And I remember him, performing and doing, talking. I went there for his talk. I regret that I didn't, for whatever reason, didn't talk to him or get an autograph. I would have liked to have done that.
Sure. Well, if it was 1990, there was a panel discussion at Beatle Fest, and I was on it with Jerry Marsden, and I would give anything to get a video or audio of that, and I think Al Sussman was on the panel with me, if I'm not mistaken. But I would have given anything to see him at the Chicago Fest.
And in fact, shout out to Al, because he was standing in line waiting to get an autograph with me, Susan Ryan, who we all know, and many probably in the audience know, and another good friend of ours, Tina Kukla. And we were all really excited to meet Jerry, and I think embarrassed the hell out of Al, because we were all just like, oh my God. We were all a little overexcited, and I think Al was like, I don't know these women, get it, and like backing out the door. Well, this was exciting. What can I say?
Well, those records are still magical. And I love the sound of his voice. Great singing voice. Whether you're talking about Ferry Cross the Mersey or Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying. I posted I'll Be There, which was a top 20 hit for him a little bit later on. And that was a Bobby Darin song, which he did a great job on. Yeah. And I like their version of How Do You Do It?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
So very sad, but time marches on.
Indeed.
And that's all the news we've got.
Wow.
So did we want to discuss anything about the charts quickly, about Paul, and a little bit about how when you get like a number 1 record or whatnot, how it used to be compared to how it is now, and what is involved these days?
Well, things are just very different these days on the charts. And I wanted to bring up something here on this show because I know that with all the different releases of McCartney III on vinyl, all the colored vinyl, all the colored CD, a lot of people are going online with either YouTube channels or podcasts and talking about McCartney III as though, if this is not a legitimate success, or that Egypt Station was not a legitimate number 1 record. And you got to realize that things are just very different these days than the way they used to be in the earlier days, when we had something which nobody seems to be talking about when this controversy is brought up. It's something called radio. Radio is the reason why we're all here. Radio is what broke most of the records that we've listened to. And the Beatles wouldn't be the names that they are if it wasn't for the radio. It's just the way it is. Nothing happened for the Beatles until they broke on the BBC, and that led to the world, conquering the world. But, almost every record in my collection is from something that I heard on the radio or an artist that I became familiar with and became a fan of on the radio. And as I've said before on this show, and I don't want to belabor this point too much, but radio is a business, and most of the people who buy music are young. It's a younger demographic. And at the time when the solo Beatles were doing really well in the 70s and the 80s, their music was played on the radio and played to a younger demographic. As they've gotten older, like all other aging iconic rock stars, their airplay diminishes, regardless of how good or bad the music is, because the people who program radio feel that their audience is not going to care about an artist who's 50, 60, 70 years old. So what's happened in recent years is that the hardcore fans, the most loyal fans of all these artists. When I'm talking about Paul, I'm talking about Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, the Who, Eric Clapton, Rod Stewart, all the greats. Um, when they put out a brand new album, it debuts high because all their fans know about it, and then it drops off the charts like a stone, like a sinking stone. And Egypt
Like a Rolling
Station,
Stone.
Egypt Station was like most albums from a veteran artist that debuted at number one. It was off the charts after 4 weeks. I'm talking about the top 200.
Yeah.
And that's mainly because radio doesn't play it. And more importantly, they don't play it to young people who buy the music. So if you don't have that support system out there, what is an artist like Paul and all these other veterans that I mentioned, what are they supposed to do if they care about their record and they want it to chart high or debut high? So to put out all these different versions on vinyl and CD, well, that's one way of having a higher placement. Doesn't guarantee you're going to have a number one. There is no guarantee, especially when you're competing against younger artists. And for the most part, you've got the younger demographic out there buying younger artists out there, like Taylor Swift. Um, so Paul has been doing this now, and it's helped him chart high. But McCartney III did not debut at number one. There are some people who think, well, why can't it just get there on its own merits? If you don't have radio, what else can Paul do? He can give interviews, which he's been very generous with. Most of the people who actually listen to them or watch them are people like us. They're guaranteed fans, It's like preaching to the choir. You've got to be able to target yourself to a young audience that's going to be interested, hopefully interested, in Paul McCartney. The only way they will ever be interested in an artist like Paul or these older artists is if they're exposed to the music. If they're not exposed to it, it's not going to sell, regardless of how good it is. I've said a number of times here, if Paul released Band on the Run today, it wouldn't really be the blockbuster album that it was. It's all because of radio. So if Paul does the interviews, which are fine, he makes videos, which are fine, he can't tour at the moment. And even when he toured, that only affected his sales somewhat. Okay. You still have to have a way of getting to young people and having them hear that music. Otherwise, if you're lucky, you'll have a high chart placement in the beginning and the album will just quickly die. And that's what's happened with Paul. It happened with Bob Dylan's last album, which was hailed as a great album. Debuted at number 2. Was off the charts in 4 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
The Who. The Who released an album the end of 2019. It was their first album in 13 years. And it went to number 2. It was off the charts in a month, maybe a little bit longer. And this is the Who. We're talking about, the greatest of these rock artists and pop artists. So, instead of people complaining that Paul's doing all these things, why don't you complain about radio not playing him or all these other artists? It's really sad. That's the reason why these albums die a quick death. And so, believe me, when Egypt Station debuted at number 1, I was probably happier than Paul at that moment because he found a way of beating the system. If radio's not going to play you, how are you going to get a high chart placement? And it worked for him for that album.
One of our viewers, Matt Smith, the loyal viewer, hi Matt, says Prince, U2, and others have been doing stuff like that for years, giving free CDs if you buy a concert ticket.
Right.
It's nothing new. Absolutely. I mean,
Prince started the whole trend, and that was in 2004. And when you think about it, Paul didn't even do that until Egypt Station, 2018. He could have done that with all of his albums in between there. He didn't use that practice at all. And, his albums charted okay. They went top 10, but they didn't stay on the charts that long. And they're not going to stay on the charts that long. I care more myself about longevity. I'd rather have an album peak at number 5 and stay on the charts for a year than have an album debut at number 1 and be off the charts in a month. But it's all because of radio. And that's just the nature of the beast, the way that radio works, in this country and in the world. Something, Kit, you turned me on to a podcast show, Nothing Is Real, which I listened to recently. They did a 3-part series on the Beatles anthology. And in the last one, they were talking about, and I'd forgotten about this, when Free as a Bird was released as a single and Real Love, and the BBC didn't want to play it.
Wow.
Because they felt that the Beatles audience is too old. And this is the bleeping Beatles, That's what we're dealing with here when it comes to new releases from veteran artists.
Yeah, there was a time when you sold 100,000 copies, you might crack the top 20 if you were lucky. 70s and 80s, that was, and then artists would do that on a repeat basis. Remember the, Def Leppard's big album in the, late 80s, Hysteria, I think it was called.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing was selling 200 to 300,000 copies a week.
Right.
For months.
Well, nowadays, streaming is such a big part of it all. I've heard that there are cases where there are artists who only sell 1,000 physical copies of their album, but everything else is all streaming, and they could have a number 1 album. That's how crazy it is right now.
I've never personally. I always go for buying the physical music and having it. As much to just streaming it. But that's how it goes today. I know, but doesn't cut much mustard with me.
And streaming, artists don't make that much money from streaming. I forget what I read figures somewhere
pennies.
Like
on the dollar,
pennies.
I think.
This should really be a whole show, I think, because there's a lot of other things I'm thinking of, the places to go that we could discuss with this. But we don't want to do the whole show about it.
But I
was thinking of a lot of things too.
We should do a separate show on this, and maybe maybe bring in somebody too, but I just think it is important that we talk about it, because we have seen so many comments on this on Facebook and all, and I just think I think it's worth talking about, because the Paul is, as you said, just trying to artificially inflate his sales numbers and everything, and it's just it's a different world. I mean,
I don't think this is going to keep us talking about this, but I don't think the question was really addressed. Like, I'm playing devil's advocate here with it, by the way. If it is indeed, quote, a fake number 1, as some would call it, it was that answer. We've answered why an artist like Paul or somebody has to do it to get a number 1. Having, justified all that, then the question is, well, is it really a number 1 on its own merit of the music? I think that's the question people are asking. Having fallen in love with this album myself, I don't worry about it. I don't sweat it, because I'm like, hey, I like this album a lot, and I think it has the ability to, if they would have played it enough, to be number 1 all on its own, just based on the quality of it. So I think it's got the staying power. I think it's that good.
But this whole subject about on its own merit, the charts are important. I always bring up the charts because they reflect how the public feels when they're exposed to the music. Do they like it or not? And to a young audience, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best music by that artist.
Right.
I mean, Wings at the Speed of Sound holds the record for being number 1 more than any other Paul McCartney or Wings album after the Beatles, 7 weeks at #1. I wouldn't call that the best album of Paul's, post-Beatles career. And there's plenty of albums that he's made from the 80s on up that deserve to sell far better, to me anyway.
And Ken, that's got to be, I mean, you're around close to the same age as me. I'm thinking that's got to be, because I remember 1976 being Paul and Wings all over the radio, or just Wings all over the radio, with Let 'Em In and Silly Love Songs all over the place. Constantly.
Right. And then this album doesn't have a chart, or doesn't have the single to carry it to continue for the album to continue to sell.
Well, it's the main thing is that you've got to have at least a song being pitched to a young audience. And if that doesn't happen, you're not going to have any longevity. And I'll be curious to see a month from now if this album is still on the charts. I want it to be.
I hope so.
If any radio station's playing anything from it, they usually play it for a week or two, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, these songs are only really being played on state radio shows like yours, Ken, and Breakfast with the Beatles and Fab Four Radio, Fab Four Radio.
Yep.
So that's just how I feel. Of course, you could always debate whether or not you think radio is as important as it used to be. That's a whole other show.
Yeah.
But the number one way this music got across and sold was through radio. And without that support system, what are veteran artists like Paul supposed to do if they care and they want their albums to do well? And
buy them all himself. Buy like 2 million copies himself, then he could be #1.
No problem.
Some people say the charts don't matter to them, but you know what? They're always going to be on record with those charts. It's a matter of history, and it stays in history. How many times have you heard the Beatles had 20 #1 singles? That's a proud thing to say. We'll always be able to say that. And all the chart facts of the group and the solo, that's forever. That's not going away. So however high these albums chart, the higher it is, the happier I am,
Exactly.
We should be rooting for someone like Paul.
Yeah.
On that note, let's move on
rooting
to
for Paul.
main topic. Okay. All right. So we're going to now go through our favorite. Well, I keep saying favorite, but not necessarily. Whatever it is, the ones you picked, we all picked for our choices to be on another Paul McCartney album. If you're going to just make one album with selected tracks from the three, McCartney, McCartney II, and McCartney III. The way I was thinking of presenting it, and if you want to do it another way, that's fine too. But I thought maybe we could go around and do just like if we had a vinyl record and you put side 1 on, you put the needle on, what would be side 1? And maybe 6 tracks you figure on side 1, 6 tracks on side 2. I mean, it's not an exact science. Sometimes maybe it wouldn't work out because the length of the song sometimes would be too long, but we're not going to get overly concerned with that. So let's go. Who's going to go first here and give us their side 1? Kit, I choose you.
Okay, well let me open up my notes here. Here we go. Okay, so what we're doing, and you guys can play along out there, but we want you to play along, is we're each picking 4 songs from each of the McCartney albums, just McCartney 1 through 3, and making one McCartney album out of it. So and boy, this was hard to do. So I came up with some kind of criteria. I wanted on each side, wanted a hit, wanted a single, wanted at least one weird track, because this is McCartney we're talking about here. Wanted a rocker, gotta have that. You gotta have some ballads, and then wanted kind of a homey sounding kind of track, that a little bit country sounding. I mean, that sort of DIY kind of indie sound, I guess, is what I'm looking for. So, so yeah, those were the criteria. So, side 1, start with Long-Tailed Winterbird. I love the way this started McCartney III, and I just thought this was a great way to kick off an album. really grabs your interest right away, and this is a typical Paul McCartney album. This is going to be one of his experimental kind of ones. Next, coming up, let's hit him with a upbeat single coming out of that. Okay. And of course, since we're drawing from the albums, this is the album version, not the live version.
Right.
Even though I do like the live version a little better, but that's okay. That's okay. That's all right. Coming up after that is, no pun intended, is Waterfalls, because we have to get a ballad in there, and it does have kind of it flows out of coming up nicely because it's the same sort of sound, And then moving on to there, from there is That Would Be Something, because I didn't want it to be too jarring after Waterfalls to go into like a big hard rocker. Always love that track off of McCartney. It's a little bluesy, always like that. And then because it's a little bluesy, we can go into Slidin'. As I love that track, as I said, you got to get a real rocker in there. And so that's, that's a great one. And finally, here comes weird track number 1, Temporary Secretary. What can you do? I mean, you have to get Temporary Secretary in there somewhere. And so I thought that'd be kind of a fun way to end side 1 with something, one of the eccentric.
Leaving people completely mentally confused. What did I just hear, right?
Just to leave them with a kind of track. So that would be my side 1.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Ken. Okay, sure. Ken, how about you?
Okay, this was far more difficult to do than I realized.
Yes, I agree. I went through several drafts.
I'll drink to that.
What I wanted to do was I had to make sure that there were certain songs that were musts. If a song was a hit, you had to put it in there, no matter what. And I wanted there to be some favorites of mine, but I also wanted a few quirky numbers in there. Not only that, if you take a look at all 3 albums, there's quite a lot of instrumentals. I think there's 6. So I figured you got to have 1 or 2 to represent the 3 albums there. So I thought I would start with the studio version of Coming Up, because start off the album with the song that everybody knows, catchy as hell, how can you not be suckered right into the album if it's a song like that? Then I thought Every Night would work very well out of Coming Up. Just hearing it in my head. Although I've mixed all these songs together so many times on my radio show, it all flows anyway. But I think Every Night would work really well out of Coming Up. Follow that with Find My Way. I think those are 3 killer songs, to start off the album. So damn catchy, and I really wanted it to be 1 song at a time from each of the 3. I didn't want to have 2 songs in a row from the same album. And then after Find My Way, Temporary Secretary was in there. There's no way I couldn't have had that. It's such a catchy song, and at the same time, it's very quirky. And up until that point, we hadn't heard anything like that from Paul, except what's on McCartney II and the weird stuff like Secret Friend and Check My Machine and that kind of stuff. And then you'll love this. I followed that with Krina Kroer. Because I wanted there to be an instrumental, and I wanted there to be something really experimental. Krina Kroer is a song that's grown on me a lot through the years, as I've said here on this show. And I love the fact that it's just a very spontaneous feeling track. He's making it up as he goes, and there's nothing else like that. He carried on that kind of a feeling with the Firemen, because a lot of what was on Electric Arguments is what they created from scratch in the studio each day, that kind of thing. I get that vibe from Krina Kroer, and then I thought I would end side 1 with Seize the Day. Just a great song, very catchy, and I just love the way it ends. And people keep saying it's the Beatle track on McCartney III. I understand a bit. As we said in our last show, there's a part in the song where you've got these descending chords, and it reminds you of "Hello, Goodbye" in that regard. But no, I think that would be a great song to close side one. So
Okay.
that's what I went with.
All right, Ken. Good job. Okay, now, Thomas, and I know you agree with Crean Crory.
I do. However, I went a different path. So for this, if there's one thing I would say first off is I think Paul McCartney is one of the most underrated guitar players in the history of rock and roll. Therefore, with this, I wanted this to be a more guitar-driven album, whether it was acoustic or electric, didn't matter, just as long as he was strumming some kind of guitar, it didn't matter. So, and then I also wanted a little touch of experimental, which you can't help to do because of McCartney II, but I really wanted to highlight his guitar playing on this album, and I think there's some great tracks on here that do that. And I started like Kit. I mean, I just the way Long Tail Winter Bird opens 3, I'm just really falling in love with that. So I chose that as my lead off. I went that way. Then I went into a bluesy number. I went with "On the Way" from 2 because again it's showing him as the guitar player. After that, I followed with a softer acoustic number, "Junk." I've always loved that one, and I felt that was a must for me. Like Ken, you said you had to have some musts, and that was definitely a must for me. Then I went with "Find My Way," number 4. Again, that coda at the end, he's just really ripping that guitar during that last minute, and just amazing highlight for me on this record. It's still my favorite song on the record. Then we slowed it down a little bit. We went with "One of These Days" for my 5th song. Again, it's not the biggest. I mean, it's just him strumming acoustic, I know, but I wanted to kind of equal it out between the albums, and he's just more of acoustic on this one. It doesn't really showcase how good he is on acoustic guitar, but he still plays really fine on that track. And then I closed side A with the hit "Coming Up." I just thought that was just a good way to close an album, just with I know who chose the "Temporary Secretary" to close. Did someone choose? Yeah, it was you. So I thought, it would be fun to close with the hit and get people excited for side B.
Tom, we're so used to that being an opener, but when you think about it, first you raise your eyebrows, coming up as the end, but then you think the way the song ends,
right,
almost is perfect. You hear it in your head as an side one closer.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. So
all right,
very
hit
good.
us, Joe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let me tell you what I would try to do. See, anybody who knows me from my channel, I'm a very mainstream kind of guy to a degree. I mean, I like offbeat stuff too, but I like hits, commercial songs a lot, But I figured I'm going to try to avoid a lot of that. So there's some stuff that you might think should be on here that's not on my list. And also what I wanted to do was, even though I am the first fan of Linda McCartney and her harmonies, I love what she brought to Wings. I think she's an integral part of Wings. Wings is Linda in a lot of ways, But I wanted to try to just have this album just Paul. You know what I mean? This is all Paul. And I cut out like stuff like Sliding or something that would have somebody else on it, like Abe is on and Rusty, right? So I thought, now correct me if I'm wrong in any of these choices. If Linda is on any of these, and I made a mistake, or another player. Okay, to start with, I went with a song you might have heard of. It's called "Long-Tailed Winter Bird."
Hey, Linda's on that one, right?
No.
I think because McCartney III is still brand new. I mean, I can't get that. I love that opening. And again, like Tom said, to showcase the guitar, excellent guitar playing arguably underrated by Paul. I really love that opening right now. Is why I'm so into it that I said, no, I got to start it with that. So that's how I am today. Second, I went into Every Night, you know, beautiful song. And I thought it's fitting for the first real vocal on the album that you get from Paul, where he's actually, singing something. Now I'm trying to remember. Okay, now I was trying to think of the sequencing of Every Night on McCartney. It's not the second song.
Every Night is number 4.
Right. Because I noticed that in some cases, you find that when you're doing lists like this, you're so used to hearing certain songs of the second song,
right.
the last song, the first song. So you almost you can't help but put it there sometimes. So
Okay.
next one, number 3, I went for On the Way. Also because of the guitar blues sound to it. I've always liked that song from way back when I first heard McCartney II, and I wanted to put that on there. Number 4, this is the first time someone's mentioned this so far. I went with Ooh You from McCartney because it's just a fun, rocky kind of song. I just thought it fit good there after something a little more laid back, like a little bit like On the Way. Now, one of my favorite instrumentals, and I watched a show. Oh, I forget his name. I'm sorry. Sam, was it? No, it wasn't Sam. It was the other. Help me, Tom. The long hair guy that was on your show.
Oh, Dylan.
Dylan.
Yeah.
Dylan. I think he meant. I'm going to spoil this for somebody. Frozen Jap. I think he picked that. I absolutely love that. I love how it sounds Asian. It has that, crystalline Fuji kind of sound.
Yeah.
He said he was going to kind of thinking of calling it. I just love that. It's quirky, instrumental, experimental. Always like that. And I really like the long version. Once I heard the longer version.
Yeah.
But we'll stick with the regular one for this. Now, someone had good taste here on this panel. I picked as the last song of side 1, Seize the Day. With its
How do you know
Beatles
what will be
harmonies.
on the rest of our, side 2s? It might make it. Yeah.
Seize the Day. I do think it sounds Beatley. I guess in that high part, the falsetto-y part, when he sings higher like that. Like that's the part that sounds Beatley to me, and what Ken was saying about similarities to maybe Hello Goodbye or something like that. Sending forward. So that's my side 1. Now we're going to go to side 2.
Cool.
I think I'm going to go right to you, Tom.
Okay.
To go first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayo. And as we flip over my LP of McCartney, we're going to start with the rocker. We're going to start with Lavatory Lil. Again, just really like that one a lot, and I think it's really cool as a side 2 opener. Then we move along and we slow it down a little bit for one of my favorite instrumentals, and that's Mama Miss America. And he plays some really good electric guitar there on that second half of that instrumental, and some great bass playing on the first half, but just an all-around pretty good instrumental in my opinion. Track 3, then we get just a really little acoustic on this because of the craziness that's going on in the song, and that's you can't I think it was you, Ken, that you just can't ignore this, or Kid, I can't remember what, the Temporary Secretary. I mean, it's you can't it's a mesmerizing track. Even when I first heard it, I didn't care for it, but I still was still planted in my brain. It's just, so in time I've come to really love the track. My favorite instrumental of all time, I got on here, this was a must, because it's got some great guitar playing from Paul, is Sing Along Junk. Just a beautiful job done by Paul with piano and guitar on that. Track 5, we go with the mega should have been mega hit, Maybe I'm Amazed, from 1970. And then there's nothing else you can say about that song really. And then we close with the way McCartney III closes, because I just think that's perfect. And that's when Winter Bird and When Winter Comes. Just like you said, Kit, like that homey feeling, that home, down on the farm, kind of feeling, and that's what I get when I hear this, when I hear this song. So that is, I think both sides were roughly 22 to 23 minutes. So I thought that it was evened out pretty good as two, as two sides of an LP. So pretty happy with mine. I listened to it earlier today. I put it on my Windows or whatever. I just, moved all the songs over, and I kind of liked it. And I'm gonna play it a little while longer and see how it holds up. But that's my LP.
Is there any chance that Paul doing Temporary Secretary live helped you to appreciate it a bit more? Did that play a part?
No, I was already in love with the song before he started doing it live.
Okay.
I tell you, I really like Temporary Secretary, but I didn't think it translated well live. I didn't think it came off well.
I don't know. I was just so happy to hear him do it.
Oh yeah, just, you know how we say something. Give us something different, anything different.
Yes,
pull something obscure out of there. Although it was a hit, right? It was Temporary Secretary.
Well, it was a single in the UK, but I mean, it wasn't necessarily a hit.
It was like a club hit.
Yeah. It was a 12. It was a 12-inch.
Yeah.
12-inch single with Secret Friend, I think, on the B side.
Secret Friend. The less said about Secret Friend, the better. One of my least favorite Paul songs.
Don't you like Check My Machine though?
I love Check My Machine. Yes.
And yet you're more conservative mainstream.
There you go. Well, that just goes to show you. A lot of people. I'm debunking that too, because I do like a lot of odd things.
Yeah.
You never know. Lunchbox, Odd Socks. I mean, I like a lot of.
Nobody knows.
I love that too. Nobody knows exactly. That make it. Okay. All right. So next up, we're gonna do. Let's see. Kit, why don't you go next?
Okay. Well, following the criteria I mentioned earlier. So side 2, maybe I'm amazed. I mean, you have to. I just thought it'd be a great way to kick it off. With just those, powerful vocals. What can you say about Maybe I'm Amazed, right? Then I thought to kind of keep with that, I don't know, his kind of bluesier sort of vocals, On the Way. A number of you have mentioned that, and I'd kind of forgotten what a great song that is. I mean, I knew the main tracks I wanted to pick from McCartney II, but when I listened, I'm like, oh yeah.
I love the echoey vocal effect on it too.
I do too. Yeah. I mean, I'd forgotten how good that is. And so I thought that'd be kind of a nice compliment. Then thought to build up to the crescendo at the end. I have planned here, so we're gonna bring it down here and go with Junk. I had to put Junk in here somewhere. I do love that. Such a just beautiful medley, and you get a bit of a slow number in here. Then to start building it back up again, Every Night. I knew I wanted to get this in as well. And finally, not finally, we're getting toward the end here. Winter Bird, When Winter Comes. We get a reprise, kind of. And then, but also you get that great homey sound. And then I knew I wanted to end it with Deep, Deep Feeling. I wanted that to be the play out. I mean, I just thought that'd be a great way to end the whole album. I mean, to just have it go and then fade out. Yeah, I knew as soon as we decided on this topic, I knew I wanted it to be the very last song on the whole album.
Well, so, what happened to Deep Down? What happened? You like that?
I was thinking about it, and I was trying to get it to fit in there, and I that was a hard one to cut. But then I thought, it might be a little too repetitive of some of the other tracks, but that killed me. But I had to cut it, but it's a runner-up. It's a runner-up.
It's a bonus
All right.
track.
It's a bonus track, a hidden track, if
A
you
hidden track.
will.
On the Japanese CD.
Yeah, that's right.
The special edition.
The special edition. The
Special
deluxe
O'Toole
edition.
edition.
The O'Toole.
The
All
O'Toole
right.
edition.
Okay, Ken, you're up. What's up?
Okay. I'm very pleased, Joe, that you mentioned Frozen Jap, because I have that leading off side too. I love it as an instrumental.
Yeah.
I like the instrumentation behind it. I love Paul's drumming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just rock solid. Whatever the song needs, it's just what it needs. He plays exactly what's required of the song, and I love the sound of the drums on it. And it's always been one of my favorite instrumentals from him. So it's kind of unusual to start off side 2 with that, but I did want a couple of instrumentals on this album. My DIY album here of the 3 albums. And then, kind of like all of you, I think, I put Junk in there as well. Junk is just such a gorgeous melody. It really is. And, you know, the sound of Paul's voice, so perfect with the acoustic. And, you know, love the way the song ends with this descending notes on the bass. You know, I love it. You know, it's got to be included. And then I had to put in Women and Wives. You know, that's a song that I really feel is one of the best songs on McCartney III. And what really sealed the deal for me was in watching Joe's video that he posted recently. He actually sang Women and Wives at the very beginning of it. And you haven't lived until you've heard Joe sing Women and Wives.
Oh, no, you're kidding. I put it over the edge for you. Hear me, women and wives.
I mean, if it's got your vote of approval there, if you love it,
Ken, it is my favorite song. Now it could change. Presently, it's my favorite song on there. And I think right now, I'll go on record as saying I think it's the closest to being what I might call actually a McCartney classic.
Interesting.
Wow.
It's too soon to call anything a classic. It takes some
That's
time.
Why, you know, in the running as a possible McCartney classic.
It's got a bit of a spiritual feel to me.
Yeah.
But that's what I think. I love the sound of his voice. It's a lower range, but it works so well in that particular song. Yeah, really enjoy it. And then one that I know none of you are going to vote for is Bogey music. I love Bogey music. It's unusual. It's really eccentric. That's part of the songs like Check My Machine and Secret Friend and Temporary Secretary. It's a song I always play on my show when it's Halloween time. Bogeyman and all that. And, and I love all the echo that he puts on his voice, kind of like what you were saying, Tom, with On the Way.
Yeah.
I like quirky. I like when
it's
Paul
just
does that
fun,
kind of thing.
Outrageous fun.
Yeah.
I like it.
And it doesn't need to be anything more than that. That has value just like that. And then you have to put in Maybe I'm Amazed. Do I really need to explain why? One of the greatest songs in his career. And just like you, Kit, I had to close with Deep, Deep Feeling.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
there you
I
go.
really, in
Isn't
a way,
perfect album closer.
Just like the first McCartney album, the next to last song was Maybe I'm Amazed, and then you had Cream Core, something really wild and very experimental like that. I wanted this album to be the same way.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of people on, throughout the Facebook land really praise this and say it's their favorite song on the album.
Yep.
A lot of people.
Good.
I appreciate it a lot more. That's the first impression video that I did is a great example of how you can change your opinion on certain things.
That's the fun of
half the reason why I like doing them.
That's the fun of them.
It's not my final word when I do that. However, I really, really, really hated that song first listen. Now I like the song.
It grows on you.
It's not my favorite, but I do appreciate it. And you do have to really listen, give it a chance to wash over you kind of thing. You can't just like, this has different layers and moods and directions.
Yes,
it goes in
it does.
and stuff like that. So I appreciate it now. not on
like
my
I
list,
said,
though.
I'm very much into something like counter melody, and there's several of them going on at the same time in that song. And to me, that means he's putting a lot of work into the composition. And there's all these different sounds on there, and I love when Paul takes chances like that.
Mm.
Of course, it requires more out of you because it's a long track.
Yes.
And for a while, it took me a while to really like it, but when I did, I got really hooked
Yeah.
onto it.
Got
So
me
yeah.
hooked. Got me hooked. That didn't get you into that song too much, huh? Okay.
No.
Hey, and you've got
Where
it.
has the time gone?
All right. Let me try to go right into mine and forget about that. All right. Here's my side two. Now remember, I was trying to eliminate a lot of the hits and things I would ordinarily pick, and if Linda was on. So I'll tell you, maybe I'm amazed is not on mine, even though I think it's the best song of the three albums, and I think it's maybe the best song Paul ever wrote. Although that's hard to narrow it down to one. It's one of them for sure. All right, so side two starts out with "Find My Way." That's my one concession to like a pop, maybe single worthy material. I still think it would be so cool to put that out as a single. And actually, as much as I like the part where it's has a false ending and comes back, I would like the single just to not have it come back. That's exclusive to the album. The single just stops where it is. It actually, when you listen to it, it can end there. I mean, it is a suitable ending.
But that code is so good.
Yeah.
Oh no, it is. But I'm saying because that's it. They do. I can't think offhand of other examples like this. I know there were songs like that on albums that the longer version is on, and the shorter version is a single.
Right. Right.
But anyway, number two, I went with Junk. Beautiful vocal. What else can you say? Especially where other people have covered it already. Beautiful vocal there. It's funny because we were just talking about how great Ken and I we feel Women and Wives is, and I put that right after Junk.
And so did I, right?
Yeah, you're right. There you go.
Okay, all right.
And at
Great
first
line.
I thought, wow, when people listen to that, aren't they going to like be a little thrown by the jarring difference in the vocals? But I've come to love that vocal, and the dark, brooding feel to it, somber piano ballad. I really like that. I think his voice is perfect like that for it.
Right.
So I had to put that on. That's, as I said, that's my favorite song at the moment from McCartney III. Number four, okay, I went with I had it crossed out. I had Bogey Music.
Oh, come on.
Wow.
You believe this?
Put it in.
I had Bogey Music. Because I wanted something wild and outrageous, and I thought that would be perfect there, just like Ken said. But I wound up going with Nobody Knows, which is I don't think nobody's mentioned that one, right?
No,
So that's
not
the
yet.
first one of that. Yeah, Nobody Knows.
Not
Not a great song, but I just thought to have something really like rocky and bouncy like that at that point might be nice. For number five, I went with the offbeat instrumental, Mama Miss America. I think it's really good, and Tom really nailed it. I thought what he said. I love hearing Paul play all the stuff on there, the drums and everything. One of my favorite instrumentals. Paul. Okay, and I closed with the song "One of These Days" from
very
McCartney. So yeah, that's another one. What I was saying earlier. Sometimes you hear something you're used to it being a closer or an opener or next to last, and like in the case of maybe I'm Amazed was next to last and stuff, and it's just in there. It's like in the groove, So I love that. I love the echo of it. I love the ever after bit that's sung in there. Breathe fresh air ever after.
Right.
I think that's a good way to close the album. Although, using the one from McCartney III is a perfect closer too for the album. I'm coming to love that too as an album closer. So there you go, folks. That's it. Any comments or anything that you noticed that were interesting?
It was interesting how we all kind of, I think, took different approaches to it, kind of thematically.
We didn't talk it out, right?
No.
We just did it.
Oh no, when we do a show like this, we never, share with each other what we picked or anything, because
Right.
it's way more fun this way. But yeah, I mean, we all sort of took different approaches. I mean, like, Tom, you wanted to showcase some like his guitar work. And I mean, I had my certain criteria, and I mean, I just think it's really interesting how we each wanted to showcase a specific side of Paul's work, his more avant-garde side, or
Yeah.
and but a lot of times we pick different songs to do that with. I mean,
Right.
it was fascinating.
Yeah, I found it interesting, the songs that we all picked.
Yeah.
I mean, we all had Junk in there, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was nice.
Mhm.
It was painful for me not to put in something like Waterfalls, because I love
Yeah.
Waterfalls a lot as a ballad. And when you think about your top 4 songs from McCartney II, in many ways, Waterfalls has got to be one of them, I think, anyway. But if you want to showcase the real, weird side of Paul, which I want to do,
Right.
because most people are, if you're a casual radio listener, you don't hear that side of Paul. They
Right.
don't play it that much on the radio. So only the people who really follow his stuff and really, study it are aware of the stuff that he's done, like the Fireman too, you
Mhm.
know. So yeah, it's cool that you and I both had Bogey music. That was very good, Joe.
My nephew loves Dark Room.
Oh, I love that one too.
Mm.
That's one of my favorites.
Funny
too.
you mentioned that. Tom Brennan just pointed out nobody picked Dark Room.
Oh, I was going to, but is Linda on that? I wasn't sure that she was. But
No.
However, I think she's on backing vocals on one of these days, though.
Oh, is she? Oh,
I got to go back and check. It sounds
Doesn't
like
sound
it.
like it.
To me, it does, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't hear it,
Joseph Benaneo said, "I want to make CDs of all these mixes and play them to see which one is the most listenable."
Get back to us. Tell us which one of us
Exactly.
wins.
There you go.
I don't think it would be mine.
That's your That's your homework for the week, there, Joseph.
Exactly, and no pressure, no, just let us know which
just
one is best.
Did we all say coming up?
No, I didn't put it on.
Coming up, I did.
I mean, I love it. I love coming up, but
Yeah.
I didn't put it on.
Yep, I did.
It's kind of like, how can you not have coming up and maybe I'm amazed? Those are the two must-haves.
That's why I didn't put it on.
Mhm.
It was obvious, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're doing pretty good on time here.
Yep.
So why don't we wrap it up? Kit, why don't you tell everybody where they could get to us and.
All right. Well, first, that stuff.
All that preliminary.
All that jazz.
All that jazz. Yada yada yada. So, first off, you can reach us at talkmoresolotalk@gmail.com. You, of course, can find us on Facebook. If you're watching live, it's right on this page. And you can also find us on Twitter at talkmoretalk1, the number 1. And we also have a website, talkmoretalk.com. So always, and our YouTube channel, please subscribe. We're getting closer to 1,000 subscribers, so keep it coming. Tell your friends, tell everybody you know, so we need more and more subscribers. And we love hearing your comments, your suggestions, your feedback. If you have ideas of topics you'd like to see on future shows, we would love to hear that. We've gotten great suggestions from listeners, and some we've done in the past. So so please keep those ideas coming. We love it. We love hearing from you guys. As far as I go, I'm going to be, if you're watching live now, this Wednesday night, and I think it's at 8 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be on Plastic EP's page. We're doing a discussion on Sgt. Pepper. So that should be a lot of fun. I am also deep in work for my History of Motown course. Really excited about it. I am learning so much. I've got so much information to share with you guys and so much great music. The class starts January 28th. There's still time to register. So I will put the information on the Talk More Talk page as well as my own Facebook page. So, 3 nights of great music and I've got some some discussion planned. It's going to be a lot of fun. So just go to my Facebook page or our Talk More Talk page for more information. And I think that's it for now.
And what is going on these days with Tom Hunyadi?
Well, let me tell you a whole lot. That's what's going on. Matter of fact, I need to, slow down a little bit. But anyways, yeah, we're really busy. We're a video cast now. You can check us out on our YouTube channel, Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. Every week we were doing a great series, a fun series called Ranking the Tracks. This week we'll be ranking Back to the Egg. All the tracks from Back to the Egg. Had a great time.
Archives,
Yes, archives, please. Absolutely. I can't wait to talk about this album a little bit because it's, I'm really looking forward to when it gets released on the archive because I think it's going to. I think it's a lot better than what people remember. I know a lot of people talk about this as a higher up their album, but I think once this gets released, I think a lot of people are going to have this in their, in their top 10 or something.
It needs a reappraisal.
It does need a reappraisal,
Yeah.
I
think a lot of people appreciate that album a lot more now.
Yes.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I have noticed it's gotten better.
But Back to the Egg, there's so many possibilities of what they could put on there as bonus features. It's amazing.
Yes, absolutely. And as for our weekly show, we just had our buddy Dylan Seavey, who the wonderful musician who had done our theme music and our outro and our intro. So we had him back on, and we thought he'd be a good person to have on to talk about instrumentals. So we talked about that, which is an overlooked area in McCartney's catalog. A lot of great instrumentals out there, and we also picked our top 10 favorites in the instrumental, all three of us. So we had a good time doing that. So again, check us out on our YouTube channel, Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. Email us at twolegspodcast@gmail.com. And coming up this Saturday, we're going to be revisiting the Paul McCartney in Red Square DVD. So had a fun time rediscovering this.
With an interesting audience member at one point.
Yes, absolutely. Very interesting.
We'll save that.
Yes, I don't know how he feels about that now, but you never know.
And when is your Rating the Track video?
Oh, thank you. They're Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So every Wednesday.
I recommend that. I love that.
They're fun.
Yeah,
and I got to tell you, you'll hear some wacky stuff, folks.
Oh, you do. Especially from the guy below me, right? No, but it's so fun doing this because it's really interesting seeing everybody else's rankings, which they're far out there. London Town was just crazy how everybody's just differed, and then when we get done with Back to the Egg, the following week we're going to go back and we're going to rank all the non-album A-sides and B-sides. So it's about 22 tracks we're going to rank in 2 weeks.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
So you group the A's and the B's together. You don't keep them all A-sides and all B-sides.
No, whatever wasn't on an album, is going to get ranked. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, that's going to be after you're done with the 70s ones.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. A few things to plug here. My latest episode of Every Little Thing, my syndicated Beatles show, airs this week on over 40 radio stations. It includes a McCartney trilogy set.
Very cool.
One song from each. Also, there's a Beatles in the Know set. N-O-W.
Right.
So those are songs that have that word in it, or knows, or known.
Not nose. Not this nose.
Not that nose.
How about unknown?
That's good. I didn't think of that one.
I can think of one. You know what it is.
But if you want to know what radio stations air the show, you can go to my website, kenmichaelsradio.com. There's a page just for Every Little Thing. Lists all the radio stations, their air times, links to their websites so you can stream the show. Okay. On my website, kenmichaelsradio.com, there's Beatles trivia every single week. You can win 1 of 10 prizes. And I will tell you that this week there's a game called The Word, in which I post a very unique word that you can find in the lyrics of a Beatle or solo Beatle song. I can only tell you that this is a song that is a favorite of Kit's, and she will be very happy. Once she checks out the website and goes to that page, you'll know the answer very quickly. I'm giving everyone watching a heads up on this. It's a little clue. You only get this clue from watching this show. Okay. So you can win one of 10 prizes like books, CDs, and DVDs. That's at kenmichaelsradio.com. As Joe said earlier, I have my new YouTube page. I have 5 interviews on there, hoping to have some new ones coming in the next 1 or 2 weeks. That's Ken Michaels Radio. If you can, go visit the page and subscribe. The next episode of Things We Said Today will be next week. We just did a show on Double Fantasy for its 40th anniversary. That came out last week. So we always do tapings on Tuesday, and they end up being posted Thursday or Friday. Although there is a chance this could be our first video version of Things We Said Today. I hope so. Okay.
Get with the
dawn of a new
times.
era.
New era.
And one
Bring
final.
out the old.
That's right. That's right. We've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I think it's as long as I have my Zoom account now, we can do it.
Excellent.
Anyway, I will be interviewed by Pat Matthews, who is the program director of Beatles-orama. That's another all Beatles channel. And that's going to take place a week from Thursday, and it's going to be live. He's going to be interviewing me about all my feelings about the Beatles and possibly the work that I've done and about every little thing, and maybe talking about my podcast shows too. And that will be Thursday, the 21st at 3 p.m. That's Pacific time. And so that will be 6 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. And then after that, it will be on their own YouTube page for Beatles-orama. So it's great when the tables are turned and people are interviewing me. You know, I love doing that. So I've done so many
you
interviews.
once. I interviewed you a little bit.
Yes, you did.
One of my Fest for Beatles fans videos.
Yes. Okay. Pretty soon I'll be having all of you on my YouTube channel.
Then I'll have something to talk about that I'm doing. Good segue there. 'Cause when they get to me, I don't have much right now to talk about. So, Ken, is that a good segue?
That is it. That's, yeah.
Okay. And then for me, all you have to do is go to my channel. It's all I have. It's a YouTube, me, Mr. Mayo. And lately, if it's your bag, seeing somebody go crazy buying all kinds of McCartney III things, anybody spot where I displayed the box up there?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I saw it.
McCartney III. Okay. I made a lot of videos about that. Every time I get something new, I'm showing it to you. I buy it, I open it, I collect it so you don't have to. That's how that goes. You can look at it that way if you want. But I have a couple of podcast things in the works. I won't really mention them now. One of them is with Tom Hunyadi. Another one is with someone else I won't mention until that pans out for sure. But I'll let you know as soon as they're up. All right, everybody? So it's been a fun show. And I hope you
say one thing? Sir? I just want to thank everybody who watched our last show.
Oh, yeah.
On McCartney III, because we got over 1,700 hits.
Yeah, that's
for that show alone in under 2 weeks. Oh, well, it's 3 weeks now. Okay, yeah. All right. Still, it's a lot.
Yeah,
we're thinking about
that's gonna be pretty big there. It's gonna be in the running for the #1 most viewed, I think, pretty soon.
Yep.
We're thinking about making every show this year just on McCartney III. Different angles on McCartney III.
You want to play off of it? We aim to please. Absolutely.
We're going to do this until McCartney IV comes out.
That's right. That's what you want. We aim to play.
And the way things are going, it might be this year.
Yeah. You never know. Yeah, well, and also we want to send a shout out to Beatle Ed at Fab4 Radio,
right?
Who was in the comments earlier tonight. I saw it there. So thank you as always for running this show as well as many of our individual shows. So thank you to Fab4 Radio.
Yep.
All right, everybody. So that kicks it in the head for this show. So for Kid O'Toole, Tom Hunyadi, Ken Michaels, I'm Joe Mayo saying, seize the day.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.